Well, I've got to say it. No one said it when you arrived, but I'm going to say it. Welcome to the SIXpm. For the next 4 weeks, we're going to have the SIXpm. Okay, I'm going to give a few words to get us thinking, and then after we've done a little bit of thinking, we together are going to read through Song of Songs. So we've got the amazing Grace and David Leach, who are going to be up at the front, and they're going to read the he and she bits, and we're all going to read the friends bits. So you didn't know it when you arrived this evening, but we're all going to be reading a bit of love poetry together. It's going to be great. But as we start to think about this book, Song of Songs, which we're going to get stuck into over the next few weeks, we might have a think about like the broader outline of this topic of sex. We live in a culture which is increasingly comfortable talking about sex, but actually each successive generation is having less sex. It's really interesting, and it's across the board. And fascinatingly, I've seen a chart of how much sex James Bond had in his films over the generations. And even James Bond is having less sex. Now, you can argue that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm sure my mother would argue it's a good thing. She was always very worried about me watching James Bond when I was a young boy. You can argue it's a good thing or a bad thing. And there are things that we might want to argue in our culture are right or wrong. But sometimes we lack in finding a rational argument for why we think something's right or wrong, why we think it's good or we think it's bad. And there are also times when we want to have conversations with people about it, even friends. We want to share our convictions maybe about these things with our peers, but we're worried that we're going to come across judging or intolerant. So we just don't have the conversations, or we go with the flow. And that destroys the academic rigor and really interrogating these questions. And there have been gigantic changes in our culture over the last generations, and people feel adrift as a result. It's a bit like when you're sitting in your car at a traffic light, and you're looking at the car next to you, and suddenly you feel like you're going forward. Or is the car going backwards? You don't know if you can't find a fixed point which catches your eye. The social psychologist Jonathan Haidt loves providing situations that interrogate moral questions and our moral intuitions. He asks questions like, what if a man buys a chicken from a supermarket, a dead one, he has sex with it and then he eats it? Is that wrong? Is it okay? How do we know whether it's okay or not okay? We might be repulsed by the idea, but what do we grab onto? What fixed point do we grab onto to say whether it's okay or not? Or what if a brother and sister have sex? Is it okay? What if they use multiple forms of contraception? Does that make it okay? What if no one knows about it? Does that change the situation? Is it categorically wrong? Often liberals want to apply John Stuart Mill's principle, the harm principle, where he says the only purpose for which power can be rightfully exercised over any member of a civilized community against his will is to prevent harm to others. But what if the situation seems like no one's actually harmed? Can we still prevent someone from doing what they want to do? And so therefore often the harm principle doesn't help us in these cases. Others in our generation argue that there's no intrinsic specialness to sex. You know, we can go out for a cup of coffee, or maybe we can go to a party and then have sex afterwards. Maybe, you know, you don't have sex on the first date, you have sex on the third date because you don't want to be seen as a whatever it is. But is there any intrinsic specialness to sex? Or is it just how we socially relate with others? If we're free, and we've been made free, are we allowed to use our freedom for anything we want to use it for? But then we have other situations where sex is forced on people. And in those situations, no one's making the argument that sex isn't special. I find it fascinating that the pill has been around since the 1960s, and it completely changed the landscape of sexual behavior. It birthed, in fact, the sexual revolution. It was believed that you could have sex with whoever you wanted, and however many people you wanted, and there would be absolutely no repercussions. It seemed like an almost perfect solution to a country and to people who often want to have sex. However, it's been shown medically that the pill is only 99% effective. And in fact, in its common everyday use, it's only 90% effective. And so that means that if a woman uses the pill consistently and consistently has sex through the year, she is likely to conceive every year. And in fact, the reason for unwanted pregnancies in our day and age, our generation, isn't just down to the pill, but it's in fact down to the change of the abortion laws. In the years since the 1960s and the sexual revolution, there's been more angst, more pain, more abuse, and mostly of women, more sexual dysfunction of men as well as women, and pornography has a huge part to play in that, and more breakdown of marriage and confusion than there's ever been before. Louise Perry has written an amazing book called Against the Sexual Revolution. She's not a Christian, but she's a woman of academic rigor, and it's an absolutely fascinating read. And I find it really interesting that even though she's not a Christian, she often comes down to biblical conclusions on sex. And so in this new landscape, the sea of never-ending cultural change, we ask the question, where's your anchor? Where's your fixed point? Are you just going to float with the culture? Or are you going to ask the question, what does God think about sex? And our plan in this series is simply to start off by reading Song of Songs. It's 8 chapters. The amazing David and Grace Leach are going to read part of it for us, and they're going to rely on us for the friends bit. So as I said, we will get to read a bit of love poetry today. This book can be read in a number of different ways. Some see it predominantly as an allegory for the relationship between God and his people. However, it doesn't have a coherent story. Rather, it appears to be a collection of stories or a collection of love poetry, which actually we can see in other ancient cultures where the time of this writing happened. But either way, it's part of the Word of God. And so it points to some of how God understands sex. If God created you, and God created me, he created us, and he gave us a sexual desire, then there must be lessons that we can learn from this book that's predominantly about sex and as part of his word. And so we're going to read, and then the next 3 weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to dive a little bit deeper. We're going to look at how God created us with sexual passion and what that means. We're going to look at how it's helpful to have boundaries and where they are and what they could look like. And then I think if we're feeling very confident, then we're going to hit the question of sexuality. And what does this book have to say about it? What might the Bible say about sexuality? And what I want to encourage is conversation through this next month. I don't want us just to be reading this book here, but read it through the week. have conversations with each other about sex and sexuality. Let's talk about it again. And let's say we aren't going to judge each other. We're just here to have these conversations, to ask these questions and to find out what the Lord says. And at times pray and say, Lord, we need your help. We are, none of us are perfect at all. And we constantly think about things and do things we'd rather not think about or do. And the incredible thing is that Jesus died on the cross for us because he knew that we weren't perfect. And so there's forgiveness for all of us, whatever happens. And so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to say it again. Welcome to the SIXpm. David and Grace, you are very brave people. Can we give you each a microphone? I'm going to give you each a chair. Are you sure? Grace has broken her foot, injured her foot very badly. Strained her foot. Here we go. Let's move you in here. Okay, what you need to do is you need to find a Bible which is hopefully around you because it's going to be easier than reading it from the screen, which doesn't have the he, she, and friends bits as clearly. And so find a Bible, open it to 701, page 701. Is it on 701 for everyone? Great. Okay. This is quite self-apparent, but Grace is going to read the she bits, and we're going to read the friends bits. Some of it's raunchy. It's okay. We can get over that. If you need to laugh, that's fine too. It's not the end of the world. This feels like sex ed, doesn't it? I'm back at school. And yeah, David's reading the he bits. How does that sound? And then after that's happened, these guys are going to pray for us, and we aren't going to have a sermon. We're just going to go back into worship. Is that good? And then we're going to have the next 4 weeks talking about sex. Great. Okay. Cool. So, over to you guys. And you need to read up nice and loudly, because otherwise we're also going to feel awkward. Please don't make me feel awkward.
Cool. Okay. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. Take me away with you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers.
We rejoice and delight in you. We will praise your love more than wine.
How right they are to adore you. Dark am I, yet lovely. Daughters of Jerusalem, dark like the tents of Kedar, like the tent curtains of Solomon. Do not stare at me because I am dark, because I am darkened by the sun. My mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyards. My own vineyard I had to neglect. Tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flock and where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends?
I liken you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariot horses. Your cheeks are beautiful with earrings, your neck with strings of jewels. We will make your earrings of gold, studded with silver.
Where the king was at his table, my perfume spread its fragrance. My beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh, resting between my breasts. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms from the vineyards of En-Gedi.
How beautiful you are, my darling. How beautiful. Your eyes are doves.
Oh, how handsome you are, my beloved. Oh, how charming. And our bed is verdant.
The beams of our house are cedars. Our rafters are firs.
I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys.
Like a lily among the thorns is my darling among the young women.
Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. Let him lead me to the banquet hall, and let his banner over me be love. Strengthen me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am faint with love. His left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Listen, my beloved, look, here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Look, there he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice. My beloved spoke and said to me, Arise, my darling, my beautiful one. Come with me. See, the winter is past. The rains are over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The season of singing has come. The cooing of doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. Arise, come, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me.
My dove in the clefts of the rock, in the hiding places on the mountainside. Show me your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom.
My beloved is mine, and I am his. He browses among the lilies. Until the day breaks and the shadows flee, turn, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or like a young stag on the rugged hills. All night long, on my bed, I looked for the one my heart loves. I looked for him but did not find him. I will get up now and go about the city, through its streets and squares. I will search for the one my heart loves. So I looked for him but did not find him. The watchmen found me as they made their rounds in the city. Have you seen the one my heart loves? Scarcely had I passed them when I found the one my heart loves. I held him and would not let him go till I had brought him to my mother's house, to the room of the one who conceived me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Who is coming up from the wilderness like a column of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and incense, made from all the spices of the merchant? Look, it is Solomon's carriage, escorted by 60 warriors, the noblest of Israel, all of them wearing the sword, all experienced in battle, each with his sword at his side. Prepared for the terrors of the night, King Solomon made for himself the carriage. He made it of wood from Lebanon. Its posts he made of silver, its base of gold. Its seat was upholstered with purple, its interior inlaid with love. Daughters of Jerusalem, come out and look, you daughters of Zion. Look on King Solomon wearing a crown, the crown with which his mother crowned him on the day of his wedding, the day his heart rejoiced.
How beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes behind your veil are doves. Your hair is like a flock of goats, descending from the hills of Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep just shorn, coming up from the washing. Each has its twin, not one of them is alone. Your lips are like a scarlet ribbon, your mouth is lovely. Your temples behind your veil are like the halves of a pomegranate. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built with courses of stone. On it hang 1,000 shields, all of them shields of warriors. Your breasts are like two fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies. Until the day breaks and the shadows flee, I will go to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of incense. You are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. Come with me from Lebanon, my bride. Come with me from Lebanon. Descend from the crest of Ammana, from the top of Senir, the summit of Hermon, from the lions' dens and the mountain haunts of leopards. You have stolen my heart, my sister, my bride. You have stolen my heart. With one glance of your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace. How delightful is your love, my sister, my bride. How much more pleasing is your love than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume more than any spice. Your lips drop sweetness as the honeycomb, my bride. Milk and honey are under your tongue. The fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. You are a garden locked up, my sister, my bride. You are a spring enclosed, a sealed fountain. Your plants are an orchard of pomegranates, with choice fruits, with henna and nard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, with every kind of incense tree, with myrrh and aloes, and all the finest spices. You are a garden fountain, a well of flowing water streaming down from Lebanon.
Awake, north wind, and come, south wind. Blow on my garden, that its fragrance may spread everywhere. Let my beloved come into his garden and taste its choice fruits.
I have come into my garden, my sister, my bride. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb and my honey. I have drunk my wine and my milk.
I slept, but my heart was awake. Listen, my beloved is knocking. Open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my flawless one. My head is drenched with dew, my hair with the dampness of the night. I have taken off my robe. Must I put it on again? I have washed my feet. Must I soil them again? My beloved thrust his hand through the latch opening. My heart began to pound for him. I arose to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with flowing myrrh on the handles of the bolt. I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had left. He was gone. My heart sank at his departure. I looked for him, but did not find him. I called him, but he did not answer. The watchmen found me, and as they made their rounds in the city, they beat me, they bruised me, they took away my cloak. Those watchmen of the walls. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, if you find my beloved, what will you tell him? Tell him I am faint with love.
How is your beloved better than others, most beautiful of women? How is your beloved better than others, that you so charge us?
My beloved is radiant and ruddy, outstanding among 10,000. His head is purest gold, his hair is wavy and black as a raven. My eyes are like doves, his eyes are like doves by the water streams, washed in milk, mounted like jewels. His cheeks are like beds of spice yielding perfume. His lips are like lilies dripping with myrrh. His arms are rods of gold set with topaz. His body is like polished ivory decorated with lapis lazuli. His legs are pillars of marble set on bases of pure gold. His appearance is like Lebanon, choice as its cedars. His mouth is sweetness itself. He is altogether lovely. This is my beloved. This is my friend, daughters of Jerusalem.
Where has your beloved gone, most beautiful of women? Which way did your beloved turn, that we may live with you?
My beloved has gone down to his garden, to the beds of spices, to browse in the gardens and to gather lilies. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He browses among the lilies.
You are as beautiful as Tirzah, my darling, as lovely as Jerusalem, as majestic as troops with banners. Turn your eyes from me, they overwhelm me. Your hair is like a flock of goats descending from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep coming up from the washing. Each has its twin, not one of them is missing. Your temples behind your veil are like the halves of pomegranate. 60 queens there may be, and 80 concubines, and virgins beyond number. But my dove, my perfect one, is unique, the only daughter of her mother, the favorite of the one who bore her. The young woman saw her and called her blessed. The queens and concubines praised her. I went down to the grove of nut trees to look at the new growth in the valley, to see if the vines had budded or the pomegranates were in bloom. Before I realized it, my desire set me among the royal chariots of my people. Why would you gaze on the Shulamite as on the dance of Mahanaim? How beautiful your sandaled feet, O prince's daughter. Your graceful legs are like jewels, the work of an artist's hands. Your navel is a rounded goblet that never lacks blended wine. Your waist is a mound of wheat encircled by lilies. Your breasts are like two fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes are the pools of Heshbon by the gate of Bath Rabbim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon, looking towards Damascus. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel. Your hair is like royal tapestry. The king is held captive by its tresses. How beautiful you are and how pleasing, my love with your delights. Your stature is like that of the palm, and your breast like clusters of fruit. I said, I will climb the palm tree, I will take hold of its fruit. May your breasts be like clusters of grapes on the vine, the fragrance of your breath like apples, and your mouth like the best wine.
May the wine go straight to my beloved, flowing gently over lips and teeth. I belong to my beloved, and his desire is for me. Come, my beloved, let us go to the countryside. Let us spend the night in the villages. Let us go early to the vineyards to see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes send out their fragrance, and at our door is every delicacy, both new and old, that I have stored up for you, my beloved. If only you were to me like a brother who was nursed at my mother's breasts. Then, if I found you outside, I would kiss you, and no one would despise me. I would lead you and bring you to my mother's house, she who has taught me. I would give you spiced wine to drink, the nectar of my pomegranates. His left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Under the apple tree I roused you. There your mother conceived you. There she who was in labor gave you birth. Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death, its jealousy unyielding as the grave. It burns like blazing fire, like a mighty flame. Many waters cannot quench love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If one were to give all the wealth of one's house for love, it would be utterly scorned. I am a wall, and my breasts are like towers. Thus I have become in his eyes like one bringing contentment. Solomon had a vineyard in Baal-Hamon. He let out his vineyard to tenants. Each was to bring for its fruit 1,000 shekels of silver, but my own vineyard is mine to give. The 1,000 shekels offer you, Solomon. The 200 offer those who tend its fruit.
You who dwell in the garden with friends in attendance, let me hear your voice.
Come away, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or like a young stag on the spice-laden mountains.